For those not in the know, we stayed in the Roy O. Disney Suite on board the Wonder for this cruise. I was going into the cruise, I said it's one and done. Now it's like one and an excuse and my bank account can accommodate it. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel and also our good friends over at the WDW Magazine. We're excited to share this one. Just a plug for WDW Magazine, DCL Magazine, the float test issue of DCL Magazine. Be sure to head over to dcl-magazine.com to get your issue today. And if you use code DCL Duo in the store, you can get 10% off everything over in that WDW Magazine store, which they've got some great stuff over there. They've got the calendars, the magazine subscriptions, the electronic magazine, everything over there. Great articles, great stuff. Head over there. Be sure to check them out. Sound like you were going to say something, Sam. Oh, well, you're just playing with puppets over there, right?
I'm just playing with my stuffies. I'm just playing with Alaska, Mickey, and Minnie over here. Sorry, I can't help myself. They're just too cute. And I'm wearing the shirt to match Minnie. Let's see, which way do I move? There we go. Yeah.
Nice. All right. All right. Well, as per usual on these kinds of shows, we're going to give you our review of our Alaska voyage on the Wonder. As we've done in the past with other kind of non-Caribbean cruises, where, the Caribbean cruises like to focus on the onboard experience. We'll talk a little bit about that in this episode, but we're really going to be focused on kind of the shore excursion experience and what you can expect on that, as well as some other things. And so get ready. We got a lot to cover in a short period of time. We've had a lot of requests for Nathan to come on, and unfortunately, he's a little tuckered out from his first day at school. So he is
first day in middle school.
First day in middle school. Yes,
he's a sixth grader now, so it was kind of a big day. He stayed up late pretty much every night of the cruise, like till midnight. In fact, 1 a.m. one night because of a time change. And so, yeah, he's pretty tuckered out. I asked him if he was willing to come on, and he just said, "I'm too tired." And I told him, "I'm not going to force you to come on." So we will pass on Nathan's reviews.
Nathan did not get to try Palo. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm just going to answer that question right up front. He did not get to try Palo, but we'll talk more about that in a second. All right. Well, let's start with some sort of pre-cruise things, because we got a lot of questions about staying at the Pan Pacific. So a lot of people recommend staying at the Pan Pacific Hotel if you're going to Vancouver to take a DCL cruise. We did opt to stay at the Pan Pacific. We, full disclosure, we have an Amex card. It gets us some added benefits. So we booked the Pan Pacific Hotel through Amex to take advantage of those benefits. One of which was a room upgrade. So we ended up being on the club level, or having access to the club level lounge. We weren't on the same level as having it, which was fantastic and made the experience all the better. It is pricey to stay at the Pan Pacific, and there's some other great options in downtown Vancouver. I've heard great things about the Fairmont, which is right across the street, literally across the street from the Pan Pacific.
Everything in Canada Place area is like really close together, and there's of course like a big like mall with lots of places like food places you can get to. There's a Rexall drugstore like right across the street, a McDonald's right there. So there's like a lot of stuff to access if you are at any of the hotels that are kind of near Canada Place, which is basically the mall that's next to the port. So super easy for access. The great thing about the Pan Pacific is that they take your luggage for you. So we just call them the morning of the cruise. You call them, I think they said by 11 a.m. Was that right, Brian?
It was 10 or 11. It was 10 or 11, yeah.
We called them at about 9 a.m. And they sent a porter, or not a porter, they sent a bellhop up with a cart to grab our bags. And they, of course, they even tell you on the phone, they recommend you tip like $3 to $5 a bag, which I think is totally reasonable considering that most people sailing on a week-long cruise have pretty large, heavy bags. And so we gave them a tip. We didn't see our bags again until they arrived to our stateroom on the
So
Disney Wonder.
they picked them up from our stateroom, and they were by our stateroom within a half hour of us boarding the ship. So that might be a function of the room we stayed in, which we'll talk about again in a minute. I was looking here. Rizzo the Rat is saying, I heard the Fairmount does too. I didn't see their bellman running across the street with luggage. It's totally possible they do. Check with the hotel. If it's near the port, they may do that. The Pan Pacific literally sits on top of the port facility and the parking garage for the port and all of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it was, we'll talk about the boarding experience in a second as well, but it was right there. So I'm by no means saying you have to stay at the Pan Pacific. You could take an Uber from any hotel in the Vancouver area and get down to the port and drop your luggage. It was very convenient. And, as hotel stays go, the Pan Pacific's rooms looked very, very nice. I'd seen some things online suggesting some of the rooms were not nice. We didn't experience that. Our room was fabulous, spacious, great.
Yeah,
plenty
we
of
had two
room.
rooms. They were both nice. We had two adjoining rooms, one for Brian and I and one for my mom and Nathan, and they were adjoining rooms. We had a king.
Alan, our friend Alan is confirming the Fairmont will do the luggage service. So great. So you have another option that does the luggage service. So anyway, it was great. I don't want to spend too much time dwelling on the hotel. I did want to highlight one thing that we did is when we pulled up to the Pan Pacific, they asked if we'd already paid for parking because there was some kind of deal they could work for us to just leave the car for some price. I prepaid for parking in Canada Place for the cruise. So I just went online and prepaid. The day of the cruise, I basically checked my car out of, we valeted our car. So valet, and then ended up, I picked the car up at 9, figuring I'll just go move it down under and then go have breakfast and then get on the ship. Turns out Canada Place doesn't open to public parking until 10 a.m. I could have tested that. I decided not to. I just found, as anyone who listens to our show for an appreciable amount of time knows, I found a Starbucks and had a coffee and worked a crossword puzzle for 30, 45 minutes and then drove the car down and parked. When I got down into the garage, they had these, I don't know, they're cones, but like portable stanchions that had people's names and license plates numbers on them with reserved spots. I never managed to find my actual reserve spot, but I just parked in an open spot and I asked someone and they said, it's no big deal. They'll just find your license plate somewhere else in the garage. You're registered with them and you'll be fine. And we were. And so that was seamless because I parked the car, got in an elevator, rode right back up to the Pan Pacific, went up, met Sam and Nathan. We hung out in the lounge for about an hour waiting for 11 a.m. to do boarding. They had breakfast. I had my coffee. I was good. And so the parking in Canada Place was fantastic. Yeah. I would recommend that.
Yeah. The other great thing about staying in near Canada Place is there are 2 free shuttles, one of which goes to Grouse Mountain and another of which goes to the Capilano Suspension Bridge Park.
Which I want to talk about. Both of those.
I just wanted to say that both of those things are really nice. So you don't have to take your car to them, even though both of them are like 15, 20-minute drive to North Vancouver. Not super far, but you can get a free shuttle there and back and then not to pay for any parking at either places. So it's super convenient. We took the shuttle to Capilano Suspension Bridge, our first full day in Vancouver, our second full day in Vancouver, because we went to an early morning breakfast with the Bears excursion at Grouse Mountain. We could not take the shuttle because we needed to get there earlier than the shuttle started running.
And let's clarify. So our cruise embarked on Monday, August 25th. We drove up Saturday morning. It was a easy breezy drive up from Seattle. We have Nexus passes that enable us to expedite our crossing into Canada. Those passes are available to anyone living on a state that borders Canada. So we have those passes. They count as our global entry passes and all of that sort of stuff too. So we use them to breeze through the Nexus lane, as is typical in crossing into Canada much faster than crossing back into the US, although our US experience this time was also pretty easy breezy. We got up there around 11:30 in the morning, I think. We had a little bit of a hiccup checking into the hotel because I had forgotten that one of the reservations was in Sam's name. I thought they were both in my name. And so we were a little freaked out because they're like, well, we only have one room for you. And we're like, that is not going to work. But hopefully they fixed that quickly. Getting into the hotel parking too was a little bit of a challenge because the cruise ships were disembarking in port that day, or 3 cruise ships were. And so they had things kind of coned off, but we navigated that. So we had the afternoon, evening on Saturday. We had a full day on Sunday, and then we embarked on Monday. And so as Sam, why don't you talk about on Saturday afternoon, we booked the Capilano Suspension Bridge Park.
Yeah, so the Capilano Suspension Bridge Park is basically a bunch of different trails, and all of which basically have steps. I will say this is not an ADA accessible experience. This is something you're going to have to be not just like mobile without sort of wheelchair, but also be able to walk like up and down lots of steps and across a very, very large and long suspension bridge both ways in order to get the full experience. It was a fantastic. It's kind of in the woods in the forest. It's very so it's kind of dark there, but they have these twinkle lights all over the place. It's very beautiful, very rustic. The suspension bridge is not for the faint of heart. It is very long and kind of a scary because of course it's moving as you're going across, and there's lots of people moving, and it goes both directions. So you're saying to the right to go in one direction, you're saying to the right to go in the other direction. But it's very cool. I would highly recommend it. It is a beautiful place to visit, especially if you enjoy kind of walking around in the woods and seeing all of these different. There are lots of small suspension bridges, but it's a park essentially. What it is, there is a fee to enter per person. There's also a fee for parking. This is not a free park, but I would still highly recommend, and I would also recommend taking that free shuttle from Canada Place, which is what we did.
Yeah, just a couple of things in the chat I wanted to acknowledge. So Alan saying his tip is to stay at the Fairmont at the airport and then take the train in. Would have gladly done that, but for the amount of luggage that we were hauling on the ship, I did not want to wrestle. I would not want to wrestle that on public transit, but.
And we weren't flying. So
we didn't fly. We drove. So that, yeah. And then Alicia's asking how much it costs to park. Alicia, I just looked it up for you. It was around $450 for the week. So I'm not going to lie. It's pricey to park right there in the cruise terminal, especially as compared to parking at Port Canaveral for a week. But when we get to the end of the cruise, I will tell you why it was fantastic. It is expensive. I will acknowledge that. Had a great time at the Capilano. I keep going to add an S. Capilano Suspension Bridge. Sam's mom was with us. We should highlight. It was the two of us, Nathan, our 11-year-old, soon to be 12-year-old son, and Sam's mom, who is in her 70s. And I will say, going across the suspension bridge was not fun for her. She is mobile. She's able to walk, all that good stuff. But it was a little more challenging for me.
And that's all she did. She went across the suspension bridge. We all went across together. Then me and Brian and Nathan did a bunch of other bridges and walkways and kind of toured around, whereas she kind of hung around and read some of the exhibits and stuff that were there, and rested because she had to go back across the suspension bridge.
Yeah, there is no, if you go across, there's no easier way back. So you got to go across the bridge twice. It is lengthy and there are lots of people on it and it sways and it moves. So it's a really cool thing to see, really cool views to have, something to definitely do if you're, at all active and interested in doing it. So anyway.
And Alan is noting it is $450 Canadian dollars, not $450 American dollars. So fair enough, Alan.
Good point.
That means it's maybe about $300, not $450 American. Yes. We forget that the conversion is favorable for us. So so the very next day we went to Grouse Mountain. We had again booked that in advance.
Actually, we should pause 1 second. We should pause. CT was asking about the restaurants we ate at in town. I should say the first night, because our Amex card gave us $150 Canadian dollar food and beverage credit.
$130, but
whatever, per room. Yeah, you're right. It was $130. $130 per room. We decided to eat in the hotel because we were kind of tired from the drive up and the day at Capilano. So we ate the restaurant in the Pan Pacific. It was like a bar restaurant that was on the lobby. I had an excellent butter chicken. I was impressed. I was impressed.
Your dinner was the best of my mom liked her dinner as well. I thought mine wasn't great, to be perfectly honest. But I was use that again, but it was free or included.
I ordered the butter chicken with trepidation, but I ordered it and then I got it and I was like, of butter chickens I've had, this is easily probably in the top 3. So it was pretty good. All right. So yes, next day, we took the free shuttle up to Grouse Mountain.
No, we didn't take the shuttle because we
Oh,
had
that's
to
right.
get
We
there
drove.
early.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
so
You're
we
right.
had booked. So there, Grouse Mountain has an entry fee that includes a bunch of the activities, and then it has some add-on things that you can do. One of the add-on things that is available is called Breakfast with the Bears. Let me be clear: you're not eating with the bears or feeding the bears. But they have two rescue grizzly bears on site, both of which are about 25 years old. They were each rescued when they were cubs. Both of whom mothers died or disappeared. And they are still they are human habituated. They are not domesticated bears. So they are behind a barrier, and they actually have several acres that they can roam, and they, of course, hibernate. So they are still wild bears. But we got to go early. We got to do like a special viewing of the bears and a talk with one of the naturalists or one of the park rangers who told us all about grizzly bears and about bears in the wild and bears of the Pacific Northwest, including, of course, Canada and Alaska and Washington. And so it was super interesting. And then after that, we had breakfast, a little breakfast buffet in a yurt. And then we got to go around the rest of the property. Brian and Nathan did a zip line excursion that was an add on
Well,
cost as well.
yeah, and I want to give a pro tip on this. So yeah, Nathan and I did zip lining. We also had signed up to do the ropes obstacle course that they have up there. And my pro tip is don't sign up for both. That was a terrible, terrible mistake. The zip lining was much more strenuous than anything I had experienced in the Caribbean where we've gone zip lining before. We've done both like a one long steep zip line, I think in St. Thomas. Maybe, yeah, St. Thomas, I think
St.
it
Martin.
was. St.
No,
Martin. St. Martin. And then we also did a
It's the canopy one.
multi zip line tree forest canopy tour in which
St. Kitts.
St. Kitts. Okay.
Yeah.
And both of those was like, the one is just point to point. You rode a tram up, you walked around a boardwalk, you rode down, you were done. The other one was, ride the canopy from basically platform to platform to platform, minimal walking, and it's all downhill to the extent there was. This was, we did a beginner zip line just to test everything out. Then we did a steeper, longer zip line that went down. Then we did one more across the water. We had to carry the trolleys that go onto the zip line, and they probably weighed 10 to 15 pounds each. So Nathan's lugging his trolley, I'm lugging my trolley. At the third zip line, they have us drop the trolley off, and we have to walk uphill to then get on a ski lift that takes us to the very top of the mountain. And we ziplined across, but then I had to hike up a steep grade to get to the last zip line that would take us back across. There was a lot more hiking in this. I was carrying both of our trolleys at that point because Nathan was really tired. So by the time all was said and done, he was not interested in doing the ropes obstacle course. I was not interested in doing it, and we ended up just kind of losing the amount that we paid for it. And neither of those experiences was, I think it was about 125 to 130 Canadian dollars a piece to do, each experience. And so we ended up losing that because I wasn't going to drag him on a miserable experience. So my pro tip is if you're going to do one, unless you're like super athletic and ready to go. So anyway.
The other part of this was it was a very sunny day, and you can probably tell my nose is kind of red, and actually it was worse during the cruise because Glacier Day really did a number. But even at Grouse Mountain, it was full sun all day, not much shade. It was lovely. I got to hear an owl talk. There was another bird of prey talk. I got to watch some movies about different, wildlife in British Columbia. Really great place to visit. Highly recommend. There's also like a ski lift that will take you up to the very top to basically where Nathan and Brian were, where you can get some great views. We got some great views just going up the funicular because in order to get to Grouse Mountain, actually, when you park or you get off the shuttle and then you take a funicular up to Grouse Mountain. And even just from that funicular or just from that location, you get fantastic views. But there's even a chair lift that's basically a ski lift that you can go even higher up to get even better views. So I would say, generally speaking, it's a fantastic place to visit. Highly recommend for a pre-cruise or post-cruise excursion out of Vancouver. Yeah.
All right. I want to talk quickly about embarkation day and what that experience is like. This is not a Disney controlled port. This is just like going out of San Diego or something like that. There are generally multiple ships in port on embarkation day. So we had 3 or 4 in port. Viking was there. I think Princess might have been there. Anyway, we had multiple ships in port.
Hal, I think, too. I think it was 4. Yeah.
So it was nice that the luggage was taken we just boarded with like backpacks, basically. We went down to street level. You walk outside, you go into the port, you check in with Disney. Since we were sailing concierge this trip, for those of you who don't know, we sailed concierge. Our check-in was fairly well expedited. Some of the first people to get checked in. You then go around, you go through, you exit, you actually exit back out of the port onto the pier, walk a little bit down, and then take an escalator down to security. And actually you go through US Customs at that point because you're getting ready to go to Alaska. So we went through security, went through customs. It was all biofacial recognition, not customs, I should say border patrol, basically, CBP. We went through facial recognition like you would when you disembark the ship. And then we went to the waiting area, and we were probably in the waiting area for 5 minutes. They called family of the day. And then they had concierge, and then it did back to back, and then they had concierge board. So all told, it was a very well run, well oiled machine. Sam's mom even commented how well run it was to embark. I have not experienced anything like that at a non-Disney owned terminal. In some ways, it was even better than some of the Disney owned boarding processes that we've been through. So really easy, really simple. We were on the ship probably from elevator down to the lobby to the ship, I'd say all told maybe 30 minutes door to door. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Super smooth experience. I think part of that is also we sailed towards the end of this Alaska season. Of course, there's a couple more cruises that are happening, but still towards the end of the season. And so they are used to having Disney and other ships there every single day. Every day we were at the Pan Pacific. So Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there were 3 or more ships in port. I think on Saturday, I think there were 3 or 4. On Sunday, I believe there were 3. And then on Monday, there were 4. So yeah, they are a well-oiled machine. They're used to these cruises going out of those ports.
So we boarded, we did do the concierge lunch. We won't go through all the details of that. I did want to say our room was ready bang on at 12:30. We went under the rope. For those not in the know, we stayed in the Roy O. Disney suite on board the Wonder for this cruise. I was going into the cruise, I said it's one and done. Now it's like one and an excuse and my bank account can accommodate it. It was, I want to spend a minute on the suite. It was unbelievable. This room. We had seen it before, but I don't think I fully understood the size and spaciousness of this room until we got into it. So you walk in the front door, you walk down a hallway. To your right is a little, toilet and sink powder room. To the left is a door into the master bedroom. There was a walk-in closet. There was a king-size bed, which is so nice to have on a cruise, especially when you sleep in one at home. There was a bathroom with 2 sinks, a shower, a toilet, Sam got in the soaking tub, and I was like, like 2 other people could fit in there.
Yeah.
And so
there's also a little kitchen. As you're going down the hall, there's a little kitchen area, the kitchenette. It doesn't have any, you can't cook in there, but it's got a wine fridge and a regular fridge. It has a sink in there. It has cabinets with, bowls and stuff if you wanted to have cereal. Then you walk down the hall.
Wait, you forgot. It has the all-important coffee maker that will make your lattes and espressos in the morning. It's what was the brand?
Lavazzo. Is it Lavazzo or was it? No, it was an espresso.
Nespresso. It was an espresso coffee maker. They had every pod imaginable there for you to choose from with a menu to explain them all. They had a tea kettle there if you want to make tea.
Wine in the wine fridge.
Yes. And a price list.
Yes, a price list because they're not free. But
and Mickey bars in the freezer.
Right. And so then the regular fridge had all of the drinks that we had requested, plus Mickey bars stocked in the freezer bottom. We also had a beautiful cheese tray cheese and cracker tray that was there for us, some fruit that was there, and then some champagne and stuff that we had pre-ordered, as well as a lovely champagne gift from our wonderful travel advisor, Kaylee. Thank you, Kaylee. It was very,
at My Path Unwinding. Yes.
So you walk in past the kitchen and you then find yourself in basically a spacious living room with a TV that retracts and comes up from a kind of hutch thing. The entire suite is bordered by balcony, so that you could step out to the balcony from the library room, which is, I'm giving air quotes because it didn't actually have like books or anything in it, but it's basically a room that is kind of off the master bedroom and also off of the living room that has a Murphy bed, and that's where Nathan slept. It was really nice. It had doors, like two sets of not French doors, sliding doors, double sliding doors, so he could have privacy in there. And that's actually where the door was to the balcony. So there was only one door to the balcony. There wasn't doors in every room, but there were windows across all of the rooms to the balcony, other than the master, because the master is the only bedroom that did not, or the only, I should say, the master and the second bedroom did not border the balcony. It was the living room and the dining room and the library that bordered the
Yeah. And a,
bordered
and,
the
a, and a dining table that
So a
seats
full dining
six.
room.
Seats
Yeah.
six. They had the Palo menus there. So one of the benefits of the Roy Suite is you can order Palo into the room, brunch or dinner. Both
Yes.
menus were there. And then we had a cabin behind the dining room that has two kind of twin size beds down below, two twin bunks that drop down from the ceiling. It has a small walk-in closet, and then it has its own bathroom with sort of a standard DCL bathroom with sink,
But,
toilet, shower.
bigger. It's a a shower bath combination, but it's definitely bigger than a standard bathroom. So we had 2.5 bathrooms, basically 3 bedrooms, a dining room, a living room, and a kitchenette. It was humongous. It has more bathrooms than we have in our own house. So that was really lovely.
For the question in the chat, was seriously considering this room today as my in-laws are joining us, but seems only one king and the other beds are twin. That is true in the second bedroom. The bunk or the bed that drops down in the library is probably about a full, maybe a queen, but probably a full. But yeah, it's the room sleeps up to 7. We got that question a lot. The room does sleep up to 7. So it fabulous room. And I will say the best benefit of it was if we needed something or we wanted something, we picked up the phone and they like practically came running. Like, how can we help you? Right. And so Sam loves the tea sandwiches. So a couple of days we said, could you just bring some tea sandwiches down so we can just enjoy them in the suite? No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So
we had breakfast. We had hot breakfast because if you're staying in a 1-bedroom suite or higher, you can order hot breakfast to your room. You can also order any of the food from the dining room to your room for dinner. So we did hot breakfast in our room almost every day, other than Palo, and you can't do it on disembarkation day. So we had Palo brunch one day, and we had disembarkation day. But every other day, we ordered hot breakfast to the room. We also one night decided to skip main dining and ordered dinner into our room, and not room service menu. We ordered off of the main dining menu,
and actually ordered off of multiple main dining menus.
The nice thing about that is because we had this big dining room, it wasn't like we were sitting and eating on the couch. We were sitting and eating at a nice table. So anyway, beyond that, the concierge experience was lovely for this cruise, because we could get basically any of the excursions we wanted because we had first dibs at them. We have the benefit of using the concierge lounge. You have drinks included from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. But I want to say sailing concierge on Disney Cruise Line is not necessary. We haven't done it for now a while. We don't have any concierge bookings on tap for the next year and a half that we have booked, many sailings for. So it's certainly not a necessary thing. It was kind of one of those really nice things to do. And I want to say we got to celebrate, because I'm not going to say what it was, but Brian got a promotion at work and we got to celebrate that promotion at work. And so that was super exciting as well.
Yeah. Two other things I just wanted to cover. One is Josh was asking about the balcony. The balcony extends the full length of the room. It's like 4 balconies put together. There were 4 really comfy chairs out there. They're non-standard balcony. They were cushioned, and there was a table. I think the deck plan actually shows it having like 2 lounge seats, but those were not present, which was fine. We used that space to actually set up a digital telescope that I had so we could kind of scan the coastline for wildlife and things like that. Very comfortable balcony, but the best part was open those drapes and those shades, and you're just staring at the Alaska scenery the entire time. So that was great. Someone asked about whether the food was hot when it gets delivered. Everything was impeccable in that suite. Everything. Breakfast was hot. Main dining food was hot. One of the reasons, seen a lot of comments about, ordering Palo in. One of the reasons we didn't is we had heard the Palo experience is not as great in the suite itself from a couple people, just because there is some, maybe the food isn't as fresh or doesn't seem as fresh. It's also served kind of all at once. So, stuff isn't the same. The other reason we didn't is because we had one Palo dinner for the two of us, and we really kind of wanted to go experience the restaurant and the service team because we think that really makes the experience. And then we had one brunch, the three of us, and Sam's mom's never been to Palo before. And we wanted her to experience the restaurant. We could have ordered another night of Palo, but let me just be perfectly honest. We were stuffed to the gills with food that it was like, I couldn't even, there were nights I was like, I can't even eat dinner. So we didn't do it. It is a benefit, and we've heard some good reviews, some okay reviews of it from the suite, but it is a benefit that you can do. That was one that we didn't take advantage of.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. We're going to move on to focus on our port experiences. Really, there's 3 ports, but there's 4 days that we're going to talk about. So we're going to start up top with Glacier Day. So on Glacier Day, the Disney Wonder kind of your time here varies. So they have to get clearance to enter the fjord from the local authorities. They have to take a pilot on who navigates the fjord for the Disney crew. And for the Wonder, I don't know how close the ship ended up getting.
It got pretty close.
We were 5 miles out from the glacier when we did our Glacier Day boat experience. But I think the ship got closer than that. I think that ship probably got within a couple, 3 miles of the glacier face itself. And when you're on the ship, that glacier looks huge from the ship. Even when you're 5 miles out, you're like, this thing is massive.
Yeah, they got closer on our sailing. They got closer than they had gotten all season. We got to go to the Dawes Glacier. So we actually entered, I believe it was the Endicott Arm. We entered at about noon or just after. And then between like 1 and 2 p.m., we were allowed to have the kind of one of the experts on board kind of come over the speakers and talk to us about the fjord that we were entering. We got to go up to the Dawes Glacier, as Brian mentioned. And so the boat we were on, we booked one of the glacier excursions, which it started at 3:15. I think we were on that boat by, I don't know, 3:30, 3:45. That was a couple hour excursion. And we got a quarter mile away from the glacier. I think the ship might have gotten within a couple of miles. They got, like I said, they got pretty close. After we had sort of left. And there was another glacier excursion before us, an earlier one in the day that essentially got picked up when we were entering the bar, basically, of the Endicott Arm. And so they went off and went ahead of the boat, essentially. And so they got close earlier in the day. We got close later in the day. I would say the glacier excursion, the boat, was a really wonderful experience. It's a little bit long for Nathan. He was a little bit bored by the end of it. But it was, I think, a great experience. I don't think it's a necessary, because you definitely can see the glacier well from the ship. But if you want to get those really closer shots and get as close as possible, it's wonderful.
Well, I'm going to slightly disagree here. One thing I wanted to call out first, because we were in concierge, we also got a very special experience on Glacier Day. We were taken through the crew area and into basically the captain's viewing deck, which is right below the bridge, and it's an open deck. And they had, hot cocoa and blankets and all this stuff to keep us warm. We were standing at the front of the ship as it approached the glacier and just had an amazing view of this glacier. And at the end of the experience, some special friends joined us. Mickey and Minnie came out. And so we got to take pictures with both Mickey and Minnie together in their special Alaska cruise outfits. That is a concierge benefit. And I kind of wanted to pause for a second. I know, there's Sam's going to show you what they kind of look like. That's what they look like. And so we got this nice pictures of family. I know I have been very vocal about the price of concierge with Disney. And look, I'm going to be frank and say this didn't change my mind about it. What it did change my mind about is there may be cruises where that premium holds more value. And I absolutely think Alaska is one of them for some of the special experiences that we were able to get. And some of the
all of concierge, not just to answer Alicia's question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brett.
And for the experiences we got to have, the special experiences we got to have, and for the excursions that we were able to book that even some Pearl folks would not have had the opportunity to book. The glacier boat that we went on, Pearl probably was able to book that. There were enough slots there. It was not exclusively concierge, but it was heavily concierge. I think, I agree with Sam, it's not necessary, but it really opened my eyes to like the size and magnitude of this glacier that we were sitting in front of. Like I said, it looked big on the ship from 5 miles out. When you're sitting in front of it, it looks like the White Wall from Game of Thrones. I mean, you could see every nook and cranny of it, the ice caves, get a pair of binoculars out. You could just explore that glacier. I had a new appreciation for what a glacier really was after getting within a quarter of a mile of one.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
The other thing I'll say to piggyback on this is about the character experience, right? It was very quick. There was no autographs or anything like that. It was very quick, just a picture with the two characters. But the lines for Mickey and Minnie that morning, if you wanted to wait on deck and wait for a picture with them, you might not be able to get both of them because they were only, I think, a half hour apart. You were going to wait. And I know this because we waited for Donald and Daisy a little later in the morning, but they were, a good hour waiting before the line even opened up. And then unless you were at the very front of the line, another, 20 minutes before you actually got your picture taken with the character.
And
you only got to take with one character at a time. And again, no signatures. If you wanted autographs and stuff, you could get them on different days, just not on Glacier Day.
Yeah. And you want the photos on Glacier Day because you have they're up on deck and you get the backdrop of the Alaska scenery behind them. The characters are out in their outfits at other times during the cruise, but they were generally indoors, like outside the theater or something like that. And it's just, it is so stunning to have the photo with the backdrop. It's really hard to get them all on that day. Just because of how long the lines are and how long it takes to wait. So it was really special for us to not have to go wait in Mickey and Minnie line and get them both together, which you can't do at all on the cruise unless you're in concierge and have that experience. So anyway, it made it special. The glacier boat, I tend to agree with Nathan. I love the experience of going up to see the glacier. After that, I would have been more than perfectly happy to have been dropped back on the Wonder for the day. The rest of the, what happens then is the boat takes you from the glacier and starts to meander down some of the other fjords, and they try to spot wildlife, but we didn't really see any. And what they need is for the boat.
Eagles.
Yeah. What they do then is they take you back out to where the boat entered and they wait for the boat to come. I thought this was going to be a slow lumbering. I have a new appreciation for how fast the Disney Wonder can move when she wants to move, because she came sailing up and I was like, a minute later, there she is, and we're getting on board. So, so it was fabulous day. I really enjoyed the day. It could have been shorter, and I would have been fine.
There was a little bit of glacier calving. We have a question about glacier calving. We did see some. We didn't see any big chunks, but we did see some smaller chunks fall off. So we definitely got to see a little bit of that. Other things I just want to mention real quick about the characters. Lots of people bound to dressing like the characters. You absolutely can do that, but you're probably not going to be able to go in between and change outfits if you want to get as many characters as possible. Goofy has two Alaska outfits. On Glacier Day, he is wearing his ski outfit only. And then on Ketchikan Day, he wears his lumberjack outfit. So the days that you will see, at least on the itinerary we were on, the days that they were in their Alaska outfits were Glacier Day and Ketchikan Day. The other days they were in different outfits, or regular cruise line outfits, their formal outfits, that sort of thing. So if you want those pictures in those outfits, you are going to have to see them on one of those 2 days. And if you want to see Goofy in both outfits, you're going to have to wait in line for him for both days. We did not get a Goofy picture. I was able to get some video of him, but I did not get any pictures with him.
So we got a question earlier about accessibility of some of this stuff. And then CT's asking about, did your mom go? So Sam's mom did go on the glacier boat with us. It was it was a smooth, it'd be like a tender. I mean, it was close to a tender.
Yeah, if you can transfer to a tender, you can transfer.
Fine. It is not accessible for those who are not mobile. Who can't transfer from a wheelchair or something like that. And then once you're on the small boat, you'd be pretty much limited to the bottom deck. Yeah, even if I'm not even sure that they let like wheelchairs on that boat, to be perfectly honest. But most of it was small. There was a first floor deck completely enclosed. Upstairs was partially enclosed in the front and then open in the back. And then when the boat was stopped in front of the glacier, they opened up a third deck that was the highest deck, and it was completely open on top. And those are all stairs. There was all stairs. So, and I'll make sure to mention the accessibility of these other port adventures we did too. So, all right, that's Glacier Day. Next up, we have Skagway was our first port of call. Skagway is it's a small-ish town.
It's the furthest north we went. So basically, we went all the way up to Skagway, and then we came back down to Juneau and Ketchikan, and then back to Vancouver, just to give you a frame of reference.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we stopped in Skagway. On this day, we had booked the White Pass Railway and Gold Panning Adventure. And so we got off the ship. We wandered around. So one of the nice things about Alaska, like some other ports we've been to, the ship was in most of these ports for a hefty amount of time, with kind of one exception that we'll talk about. But in Skagway, we got in the morning, and our port adventure was not until like 11 o'clock in the morning, I think, was when our port adventure started. Maybe it was
12:15.
12:15.
And just to give the exact names, if people are interested, it was called White Pass Railway and Trail Camp. That was the one we were on, and it was a 5 hour and 15 minutes according to the app. I screenshot it just in case people need it.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so we got off the boat in the morning, and the train was right there at literally right there. There's a picture. I'm sorry we don't have. I want to say this. I'm sorry we don't have photos for tonight. We got back yesterday. We unpacked. We all had to get to work and school today for the first time, so I did not get a chance to put together a PowerPoint. That said, we have a lot of stuff over on our Instagram stories. Sam, we should see if we can save the Alaska stories so people can go back and see them after the show. And we have a ton of footage from each excursion. We didn't cover the whole cruise. We just really tried to cover the excursions. And so I'm going to be putting those into videos and reels over the course of the next week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, and posting those over on Instagram so you can see kind of what the excursions were like. So those will be coming as well. We got off in the morning and decided to wander around town, buy some souvenirs. The train was sitting right there. We have this great photo of the Wonder looking back at the ship, the Wonder sitting there parked, and the train and the steam coming off of it, like literally looks like it's right next to the ship. When we got off for the excursion, bizarrely, they were like, okay, everyone get on this bus. And we're like, I thought we were going to the railroad. It's like right there. And they're like, yeah, but we didn't board there. We boarded at the terminal that was like literally, it was across town, 5 minutes. So he got us all on a bus, took us over to the train station. Each bus was assigned a car, which was nice because then it didn't feel like, well, our buses are late or we're in the back of the bus, so we're not going to get good seats. Each bus was assigned a train car. So we got on, we found some seats. We were first off the bus, and so we got some nice seats right in the middle of the carriage. Board the carriage, and then they take off, and it's about an hour and a half to an hour and 45-minute train ride up the mountain. Lots of announcements and sightseeing tips along the way. They'd always tell you well in advance, this is coming up on the right, this is coming up on the left, so everyone get their cameras ready. They did have the platforms on either end of the car, open air platforms open, so you could walk out and stand on the platform and, get the fresh air and see the scenery that way. People would kind of trade places and stuff. You were not allowed to move between cars. You could stay within the confines of your car.
And there was a bathroom in each car, which was a nice benefit. I will say one thing about going out on the platform. When you went on the platform, that train is really moving. And so unless you have like a GoPro or something that has like an attachment to your wrist, I would say risky to have your phone out filming, right? So if you have something that attaches your phone to your wrist, that is what I would recommend for the train. If you'd like to go outside, if you take shots from sitting in the train, you're going to get some reflection, of course, off of the window. Somebody's asking in the chat about our weather. We had, I cannot even tell you, the warmest, sunniest weather I have ever heard of in my entire life in Alaska. We had not a single drop of rain our entire cruise, not a single cloud in the sky. We had some fog one morning. I think the first morning we were at sea, so we heard the foghorn a little bit that early in the morning until the fog burned off for the day. But basically we had nothing but sunny skies and dry air. It was the most gorgeous. And like I said, I got sunburn because of it really badly. In fact, I'm still peeling.
Our experience is apparently abnormal.
Yeah, abnormal. This is not normal.
Every port we rolled into, like I checked the weather the week before and it was all showing like cloudy, drizzly, rain. So I was prepared for that. We rolled into every port. Sunshine, blue sky, not a cloud in sight. This will become more important in Juneau when we get there in a second. So we rode the train up the mountain. A lot of the White Pass Railway excursions will then kind of turn around and take you back down the mountain. We got up we got up to the top of the mountain, got off the train in, I don't even remember the name of the town. That's not
Fraser, British Columbia in
Fraser.
Canada.
Fraser, BC, which is really just exists. It's homes for the Canadian border officials
Yes.
who staff the border up there. The Americans all live down in Skagway. The Canadians live up there. Apparently, it's like 2 hours to Costco for them. And in the winter, it's brutal. It's the vegetation is all bare on one side because of how whipping the winds get. It was a little windy up there for us too. But so you get off. There's nothing to do there other than board the tour bus for us. That's going to take us back down the mountain to Liarsville, which is the...
but we got to stop at the big sign that said, "Welcome to Alaska." That was really cool. So we got a really nice picture in front of a cool sign.
We did have to go through border at the U.S., but basically they don't check passports there. The bus driver just basically vouches for everybody and they let you roll in because there's no one else getting on these buses. So the buses coming through are all picking people up from the train, and everyone on the train came off of the cruise ship and is coming up. So we drove back down. There was a question about wildlife. I will say one thing that was really interesting was I saw very little wildlife on the train, nothing on the bus ride down. We saw none on the boat excursion after the glacier. That was part of why they took us around to the other fjords, was to see if we could spot bears in the wild or bald eagles.
Or goats.
No
We
bears.
we saw a couple of bald eagles. Oh, but we forgot to mention the whales. Oh, Glacier Day, before we even got into Endicott Arm, which normally you might see whales near the bar for Endicott Arm, but it was hours earlier. I want to say around 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're out on our balcony. And we just kept seeing whale after whale after whale. Now, mostly we just see the blowhole spurt, right? But then occasionally we'd see like one of the dorsal fins, and then occasionally we'd see a tail. I got one video of one of the whales kind of doing that jumping thing out of the water, and so
Breaching.
we got breaching. Yeah, we got some really great whale watching from the ship, not on a whale watching excursion. But yeah, fantastic. But we didn't on the glacier excursion. We didn't on the train, save for a couple of bald eagles that we saw.
Accessibility for the train. It is not accessible. They ask
there is a car.
Yes, but they ask a ton of questions about your ability to transfer and to go upstairs. So like if there is an accessible car, it's limited. And they're really expecting you to be able to get up and climb the stairs to the train and walk through the car to get to your seat. The aisle is not wide enough for a wheelchair.
There's a separate excursion. You have to book it. There is a specific, I believe, accessible White Pass Railway excursion. And I believe it's just the one. And so you have to book that one. The one that we booked is not an accessible one. If you do have somebody who uses a wheelchair some of the time, but is able to get up and down stairs, because it's not a lot of walking or anything, because you're sitting on the train, you're sitting on a bus, right? It's if you have somebody like that, they could certainly do it.
Vanessa. So if you need the accessibility, you need to book that in advance. And we heard from folks, Disney asks a lot of questions around this to make sure that you're going to be able to do the excursion. So we boarded the bus, we drove back down the mountain, and just like right outside of Skagway, there's a gold mining camp called Liarsville. That's the name of it. They have the famous Liarsville players. Anyway, you roll into this place. We put a video up on Instagram at one point, like a guy boards the bus and just starts hooting and gives you a yeehaw and starts screaming and yelling. And it's actors who have come on. They're playing the parts of gold panners and drunkards and,
and they're telling
ladies of the evening.
They tell you the story of the gold rush in Alaska, because that's obviously how all of these towns, they would not exist if not for the gold rush. And so it's the kind of cute, hokey little show they put on for maybe 30 minutes. Then they take you over to these troughs where you do gold panning. Each person is handed a pan. Spoiler alert, they make sure that every pan has some flakes in it. So you will, in fact, if you do the gold panning as they tell you, you will, in fact, strike gold. And they give you a little plastic baggie to put your gold in. So I have to say, Nathan thought the train was cool, but it was a little too long for him. But he actually put as he says this is his favorite excursion because he loved the gold panning part so
I think
much.
he
This
loved
kid
all of
loves
the. I think he loved them all equally. Was
he
kind of
loved
what he
them
was trying to
all.
say. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he loved them all, but he loves gems and things like that, and so like rocks, and all that kind of stuff. And so he loved the gold panning. He thought that was so cool, and he loved being able to leave with some gold. That was like a highlight for him.
Yep. And then after that, we boarded the bus, and it basically took us back to. It would either drop you off in town or take you back to the ship. We actually got off in town and walked around a bit. We did learn something new this cruise. We hadn't fully understood. Like Nathan wanted to go back to the ship, and so the first in Skagway, we took him back on, and then I think it was Juneau. I forget which one. Anyway, one of the ports we took him on, and then walked back off ourselves like almost immediately, which was kind of a pain. And we learned he can actually reboard the ship on his own. It's only exiting the ship that one of us needs to be with him. I instinctually kind of knew that, but we were nervous to test it out. But he did get back on in one of the ports on his own, so we could wander around the town. So that was a nice option to have.
He was not interested in doing any of the shopping that we wanted to. But both of for that day we had plenty of time to still go. Our ship wasn't leaving port until I think 4:45, 6:45, and so we had plenty of time to go and walk around the port. And it's this cute little town. I will have to say I think Skagway was my favorite of the towns that we visited of the three, because it was just like so adorably adorable. So cute. Loved it.
Yeah. And so I just want to highlight Skagway's like a one street town, like for the tourists. So it's, and it's all of these ports, ports were chock full of jewelry stores. The bus driver made a joke about like, and here's the, here on this corner is a jewelry store, followed by a jewelry store, followed by a jewelry store, and so it had that kind of Caribbean feel. But then you could find the spots that were local artists, Alaska made goods. Ask if you want something made in Alaska, ask. I learned that lesson because I was going to buy a little totem pole that looks hand carved and hand painted. It was made in Indonesia. And so I ended up going to another store and sort of saying like, do you have some that are made locally? And they did. And I bought one of those. They're much more expensive than the other stuff. But if you want something local, ask and make sure you get confirmation that it is made locally. But otherwise, it's a kind of a one street town. If you go off the side streets, there's some coffee shops and restaurants and bars kind of off the side streets. But if you go one full street over, you're basically in like, there's a gas station and some apartment buildings and things like that. So Skagway, very small.
Rizzo the Rat, we're going to get to your question on wildlife after we hit Ketchikan. So don't worry, we'll get there.
Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news. The fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in Concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode. All right, so next port after Skagway was Juneau. And in Juneau, we booked a very special and very expensive port excursion. We booked a helicopter out to the Norris Glacier with a sled dog experience. And I will not pretend this is not something that you have to do to make your cruise. We did it because we had done a helicopter tour in Norway that we absolutely adored. And so decided to do the same kind of experience on this cruise. It was roughly, call it $900 a person to do this excursion. The only excursion that beats it was a private airplane tour that we did not do.
And this one only the three of us did. So this was called Dog Sled Adventure by Helicopter. And there are two different ones that look very similar. One goes to the Mendenhall Glacier, one goes to the Norris Glacier. We booked the one that went to the Norris Glacier. And the three of us, meaning myself, Brian, and Nathan. My mom was not wanting to do helicopter. She could have done it. She is mobile enough to do it. But I think it was the right call for her. she does not. The idea of getting into a helicopter did not sound appealing to her.
And I want to flag a couple things. We did not book Mendenhall because there were some concerns about staffing when we were doing our port adventure booking. And so Mendenhall was open and was fine, but we booked Norris because it wasn't dependent on the staffing. The camp up there is manned by a private company. And so we booked the Norris Glacier for that reason. The experience is you get off the ship, they take you in a little bus. I mean, the whole excursion was maybe like
it was 14 people.
14 people, and they do it a couple times a day. This excursion,
3 helicopters.
This excursion does not run this season. It ran less than half of the time because of weather.
I think less than 30% this season, actually, they said.
Whatever the number was, your chances of doing it are less than your chances of it getting canceled. And the bus driver we had said it's not unusual. They drive out there and they find out it's canceled. And then he's got a busload of people he's hauling back to the ship who couldn't even do the excursion. So it is expensive. You can't book 2 excursions with Disney, so you won't have a backup plan. And they don't find out really until the day of, sometimes the moment of. The weather changes so fast and so drastically. They actually told us a story of a group that went up to the glacier, got trapped on the glacier for 4 hours while weather rolled through, and then they were able to get a helicopter up to get them off. They were actually trying to figure out if they had enough bunks up there for people to sleep overnight if they needed to. And so basically, you go to the helicopter place. They give you the safety briefings, get you all decked out. They give you some booties to put over your shoes for the snow walking, get you in the helicopter. They take you up the glacier. It's a 20-minute ride up, and they kind of meander around to show you a bunch of other glaciers in the area, try and spot some wildlife. Again, we did not see any, but they fly you over several different glaciers, and they kind of bring you down and set you down on the Norris Glacier at a dog sled camp that's up there. It's a no trace camp. So everything is hauled up at the beginning of the season, including all the dogs. I have this image in my mind of all the dogs sitting in the helicopter with their little seatbelt on, to ride up the glacier. It's not how they do it, but they haul everything up there. And at the end of the season, they tear it all down, bring all the dogs down. Everybody comes down and they groom the glacier so it looks like they were never there. We landed at the glacier. We were met by some guides who gave us a little.
Let's tell them also the helicopter went back to bring more people. So the helicopter is basically doing it back and forth.
Yep.
And when they come to pick you up, they are bringing the next group of people.
Yep.
So they're doing like 7 trips for a day or 7 groups a day.
This is a quick excursion. So you get 20 minutes up in the helicopter, probably about 45 minutes on the ground with the dogs, and then you're back in the helicopter and they take you back in a 10-minute direct flight back to the airport. So there was no flying over the cruise ship or sightseeing on the way back. On the glacier itself, we met some guides who then assigned us each to a musher. The mushers up there all own all the dogs. They're up there for training and exercise and all of that sort of stuff. So they bring their own dogs up. The musher we had owned like 34 dogs. 34 dogs. The dogs are all out there and they have their dog kennels and houses and they're having a rip-roaring time. All huskies. And then they put you on a tandem dog sled. So it's actually a dog sled attached to the dogs and then another attached to a rope to another sled. So there's 4 seats and then 2 driver positions. The musher takes the forward driver position so he can guide the dogs. Nathan sat right up front in the beginning. Sam was sitting in the back and I was standing in the other sort of driver position, having absolutely no role in steering where we were going. And we basically did like a quick 1.5 mile loop, I think is what they said. We went out, around, and then back to the camp. Stopped a couple times along the way to let the dogs rest and
also swap positions,
swap seats and let the dogs rest and get some water. They just eat the snow. We got back to the camp. We all got off and he said, "You're welcome to go up and down the line and pet any of the dogs. They're all friendly." Not all of the crews are like that. Some of the dogs don't love strangers. And so they told us to listen very carefully to the instructions of the musher over which dogs you can pet and which dogs you can't. And if any dog starts to react negatively, just walk away. They were all of our dogs. We walked up and down the line just petting the dogs. They loved it.
Louis was our musher, and all of Louis's dogs are super friendly. You don't even have to let them smell you first. He's like, they don't even know what that is. He's like, because they get sort of manhandled. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just part of the way that they are interacted with every day because they're working dogs, right? But so you can just go right up to them and start petting them and loving on them. They're all laying down on the snow to cool their bodies off.
Yeah, we thought they were
interesting.
sleeping, that they were cooling off.
They're cooling their body temperature. But these dogs, I mean, these dogs are beautiful. They, like Brian said, they were all really friendly. Some of them were real snuggly. Some of them were like, I just want to run. Like, and they like, I don't want to rest. I want to run more. And so you could tell they were like, they start like making noises and kind of, it was just really a really amazing thing to see.
Two things to note. One is when they tell you to go to the bathroom at the helicopter port, go to the bathroom. There is no bathroom up on the glacier. Like they go out and they just, they pee in the snow, whatever. And then they have to clean it.
They poop in a bucket. They pee in the snow.
Because they leave no trace. They want to leave no trace.
Yeah.
And so no bathroom up on the glacier. So when they tell you to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. The second thing is things can get a little ripe on the glacier. So the dogs, they're not like bathed and fluffy. They're working, and the guides.
And the mushers are a little stinky.
Well, the guides don't have access to a shower up there, so they come back down. I think they said for
every few days.
Every few days they shower, get supplies, go back up. So just know that going in. We diligently washed our hands when we got back to the helicopter airport after petting all the dogs and loving on them. They did have some puppies up on the glacier, so some dogs are born on the glacier.
These dogs have never seen dirt, the puppies that we saw.
Yeah, and so they were all snuggled up in a pen together to keep them away from the other dogs and just loving life. And they'll get hauled down at the end of the season. They're being trained to run the Iditarod, is what we heard. And they have their own Instagram account that you can follow. Maybe we can dig that up and put it in the show notes. But anyway, so we saw puppies. Then we flew back. The helicopters came back.
Play with those puppies. Those puppies were not. They were behind a fence, so we got to see them. Although the funniest part was when one of the regular dogs got loose and started running around the puppy on the outside of the puppy pen, and the puppies all like woke up and started barking, and they thought it was
every dog in the camp is like, they told us, they're all tattletales. They're all like, there's a dog loose, and I was like, I thought they were like up there, Attica.
It was hilarious, but apparently those dogs won't go far because they know where their bread is buttered. They know where they get fed, and they're not going anywhere. But they just love to run.
At the end of the excursion, flew back down to the airport, got out of our gear, hopped a bus back at the cruise ship. No time flat. I think they also did a stop in town and a stop at the ship, if I'm remembering correctly. But yes, Nathan dubbed this
the best day ever.
Yes. So we asked him at the end what he thought of it, and he just looked at us and said, "Best day ever." So it was a fabulous experience. The price was worth it alone for that statement, but the experience was actually well worth the cost. And I don't know any place else that I would get to do that for any less. So
it is a once in a lifetime type of experience.
Yeah.
One of those things where Alaska, you save up your pennies for those excursions. So if you're gonna like spend anywhere, and let's say if you are trying to budget and you're like, oh, I kind of want to stay concierge, but I really want to do these excursions, I'm gonna say do those excursions if you can, because honestly, these are once in a lifetime experiences. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
And Nathan is now super spoiled.
He was spoiled before, but he's spoiled now. So that was our day, and after we got back to the ship, we had because this was like it was like a 2-hour excursion.
This was 3 hours and 15 minutes.
It didn't feel like that though. Anyway,
it didn't feel like that. But remember, we had the safety briefing and the bus ride and the meetup on the ship and all of that. So all of that included, it was 3 hours and 15 minutes. But yes, it only felt like maybe 2 hours.
Juneau is the capital city of Alaska, and it is a major city by Alaska standards. And so there was plenty to do
by mainland standards.
Yeah, that's why I said Alaska standards. There was plenty to do and see in Alaska or in Juneau, plenty of shops and stores. You did have to take a shuttle bus from the port down into town. We did get a tip. Tracy's Crab Shack is like the rage, and everyone wants to go have crab there. Our bus driver told us there's a spot across the street called Twisted Fish, serves the exact same crab, is cheaper and has no wait. And so we took the bus that's where they drop you off, basically, is right there at Tracy's Crab Shack. So we took the bus, we walked across, walked in, immediately seated at a table.
At Twisted Fish. And we had 2 pounds of crab legs, and they were delicious. That was our highly
lunch.
Recommend Twisted Fish over Tracy's Crab Shack. We actually walked by Tracy's, and I will say our crab looked way better than their crab.
Our server told us if we had come last week, they would have been out of crab. But she said she thinks Tracy's is serving Japanese crab right now because they didn't have any Alaskan crab to serve. And so we walked by, and I was like, that crab looks very different than the crab we just ate. So it looked like it had been frozen and reheated. So not to disparage Tracy's. If you're serving real Alaska crab, more power to you. But that was just the information we were given by our server. So we wandered around Juneau. We had lunch, and then we got back on the ship. Next day, we had our last port, which was Ketchikan.
And we did the black bear and wildlife exploration.
Yes. And so in Ketchikan, we got off the boat with the excursion. It was a big bus, took us well outside of town into the forest, and got off. There were 2 excursions on our bus. One was doing zip lining. The other was doing sort of black bear viewing. These are black bears. We did not see brown bears or any other. It was black bears, grizzlies specifically.
Yeah, and this is near Herring Cove for those who know Ketchikan.
Yeah. And so got off the bus, met some guides, and we had a little hike down to see bear viewing. On the point about accessibility for this excursion, I honestly don't know. I don't think it's accessible because you're wandering some forest trails. So you kind of these are not technical trails. They're not steep. They're groomed. Ultimately, you're going out on these boardwalks that they have built, and they place their camp right across from 3 hatcheries, basically. And so there's a river and the hatcheries. You're on the other side on elevated boardwalks. And essentially the weather was one thing. It was fantastic, but the bear viewing was apparently phenomenal.
The best they had all season. We saw 7 bears total. There was one short viewing of 2 bears, a mother and her cub, that I got a very quick video of, but almost didn't even catch them because they were kind of in the distance, and they were the ones we saw for the shortest period of time. The other 5 bears that we ended up seeing sort of throughout the couple of hours that we were there, some of them we literally watched for like an hour. I mean, it was just, they would just sort of move around this area from the water to kind of the shore side, onto some rocks, onto the grass. Like, it was incredible viewing. These bears were just amazing to watch. We mostly watched them eat and fish, basically. And fishing for them is like super easy. There is like plentiful salmon, as Brian mentioned. The hatcheries were right there. You could actually see the salmon trying to jump into this culvert, but against the current in this one location. We even saw some of the fish like smack into the wall and fall down, which was kind of funny, but also kind of sad. But yeah, it was like fish in a barrel, the way these bears, they could just grab in and pull out a fish and then eat the whole, and just tear it apart. It was really cool to watch. We did see this one really cool bear interaction between what we think were maybe a male and a female bear. We know one of them was a female bear she was eating. The reason we know is because she peed when the other bear approached her. And they didn't fight, and she even shared some of her fish, which was very unusual bear behavior. The guide said that was very strange. So they thought it's possible maybe those 2 bears were siblings or like that knew each other. And so that's why they didn't like cause a confrontation, because it was a very odd interaction, but really, really cool.
Yeah, the bear viewing was amazing. I just want to call out, if your kiddos are not attuned to the circle of life, this may not be the excursion to take them on, because the bears are just picking fish up out of the river and devouring them. So just know that you are going to see blood and guts. And so Nathan was fine with it. I've seen it before because I went fishing in Alaska ages ago, and that's something you see. But if you're not ready for your kids to learn about the circle of life, this may not be the excursion for you. Yeah.
And I will say, I'm going to go back to Rizzo the Rat's question, which was asking, did we feel like we got enough wildlife on this trip? Because I know that Karen was saying, if you want to see a lot of wildlife, she was saying in the chat, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, that if you want to see wildlife, you might have a better experience doing a land and sea combination. And I think that's true, because if you want to, like, certain wildlife, you're going to have a better chance if you're going to go into Denali, for example. And the cruises that Disney does, they just don't go that far. You can't go that far inland, right? Unless you go before, and then you have to travel back down to Vancouver. So it's a bit of a schlep. Some other cruise lines, like Princess, for example, do a land and sea combination where you do Denali first, and then you get on the ship in Anchorage, and then you travel all the way down. I feel like because we did this bear excursion, because we saw the whales at the beginning, and because we saw some of the bald eagles, of course, I've mentioned this on the show, we have seen bald eagles quite a bit before because we have some that live like really close to where we live. But I feel like we did get to see enough wildlife, and I was like more than satisfied with what we got to see. I will say we made sure to go to Grouse Mountain before we got on the ship in Vancouver, in part because we knew that Nathan really wanted to see bears. And we knew that even though we were doing a bear focused excursion in Ketchikan, there is always a chance that you will not see a bear on that trip. They cannot guarantee that you will see a bear. And we knew if we went to Ground Mountain, he would at least see those 2 rescued grizzly bears. And so that was for us certainly that was sort of our fail safe. But I do think it's true if you want more wildlife, then the land and sea option is probably the best option. But I still felt like we had plenty. I was super satisfied. And so it was really just incredible. It was really just wonderful.
Tracy, no, we did not see the Lumberjack show because we saw one on Grouse Mountain. I think we failed to mention that. We saw the Lumberjack show at Grouse Mountain, which was fun and kitschy, and I'm glad I saw it. But no, we did not see it. The Lumberjack show is literally right there at the port. You could walk off the ship and be at the Lumberjack show because we in
Ketchikan.
When we got off, we wandered around. I will say a lot of the stores in Ketchikan were closed on a Saturday, sunny Saturday, because seemed like they were giving staff time away to go enjoy the weather. Totally fine. And so Ketchikan was also a small town, bigger than Skagway, much smaller than Juneau. Fun little place to wander around. It was the only place I was unable to get my cup of coffee because literally every coffee shop was closed that day except for one. And when we walked up to that one, the person was like off on a break.
Using the restroom.
Yeah. The bears excursion was fun. We wandered around looking at bears for probably about 90 minutes. And then they took us up to a totem pole.
A sawmill too, it was a sawmill, and it was the totem park. Basically, there's this guy whose uncle carved most of the totems. He's basically revived the art of totem pole carving. His uncle, who's now passed away, but so the nephew Kevin is now basically the premier totem carver in Ketchikan and probably the premier totem carver in Alaska. And so there's this park that has a whole bunch of different totems right there. This is right outside of where we finished the bear excursion. So it's like basically the same location. And there's of course a gift shop that you can buy bear stuff in as well. But like the totems, we got to ask him questions, and he sort of explained, his process and where he draws inspiration. He's working on a totem that is actually an honor piece for his uncle who passed. So super cool to hear, him talk about what that's going to look like. It's a very much in the beginning stages. So he's just sort of hollowing out the back of that totem. He hasn't started carving the front of it. But yeah, it was a really cool educational experience in addition to the bear sighting. And so that was maybe the last 30 to 45 minutes of that excursion. I think Brian's right. I think it was probably 90 minutes of bear viewing and then another maybe 30 to 45 minutes of kind of between
it was really just a way to keep you entertained while they waited for the bus to get back to pick you up.
Probably. But I thought that was a great part of the excursion as well.
Yep. All right. So that's the excursion experience. I think we have covered most things that we wanted to cover about the experience. I did want to talk briefly about disembarkation. And then Sam, if you have any final thoughts or questions that didn't get answered that you want to answer, I'll turn it over to you. I will say disembarkation was even smoother than embarkation for us. This was a function of concierge, 100%. There was a huge line like any other ship to disembark that day. We were able to take advantage of the express disembarkation through concierge. So basically we meet at the lounge. They bring us down in an elevator, put us in a special line. We were probably the last concierge guests to take advantage of it and get off the ship. But once we stepped off the ship, it was almost bang on 3 hours from the moment my foot hit the gangway to when my foot hit the door at home driving.
And that includes a stop at Starbucks and McDonald's, by the way.
And so we got off the ship. Basically, we walked in. We went to customs. We did buy some fish in Ketchikan, and I decided to do the right thing. I declared it. She just looked at me and said, "All right, great." Like, I mean, there was no nothing, not even like a weird. I just said like, we declared some fish. It's smoked fish, and I like had the bag there. I was going to show her, and she was like, "Come on in." All right, so we walked in. We were expecting to have to go through, CBP, border protection, and as we were walking out, they were like pointing people parking this way, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, how do I get to the parking garage? She's like, that elevator right over there. And I'm like, we haven't even gone through what's happening right now. Like, I just walked into Canada and no one checked my passport. And so we went down in the garage, literally put us on the second floor where we were parked, walked out, walked 5 spaces over, packed the luggage up in the trunk. We're out of Canada Place in like about 15 minutes from gangway to car and out the front. Drove out of Vancouver, hopped on the highway. Because of our Nexus passes, we cleared the border in the US in under 5 minutes, and we're home. So one of the smoothest disembarkation processes I have also had off the ship. All of our luggage was there. Everything was fine. We did buy an ulu knife in, I forget which port, Juneau, I think it was. We bought the ulu knife. And so we bought an ulu knife, which is for those who don't know, it's a special Alaskan knife. And
it's herbed and use it for like vegetables and herbs. And so when we got back on the ship, we told them, but then they put it through the belt, the detector, and then they, put a tag on it, they take it. And then when we got back to the port in Vancouver, we go to a desk and pick it up. And I actually had lost my claim tag, but they were able to still give it to me because I knew, one, what number it was, but also with my ID and room number, they were like, yep, you match. Everything works.
So overall, I'll wrap up with a couple of things. I'll hand over to you, Sam. I'll just say, like, look, this cruise, 15 out of 10. I mean, it was just from end to end, one of the best Disney Cruise Line experiences I've had. For me, it easily cracks the top 5. It may be my number 2 after Norway. I loved everything about this cruise. Did I get to see as much wildlife as I wanted to see? No, but I saw plenty, right? I mean, the bear viewing, the sled dogs, the bears we got to see in Grouse Mountain. We did spot some whales. Like, I got to see enough to keep me happy, not as much as I was expecting. But the experience overall, 15 out of 10, easily one of my top 3 cruises right now. Such to the point that we are absolutely, Kaylee, if you're listening to this, I know Karen's here. We are absolutely waiting for the 2027 summer itineraries so we can book this cruise again. Someone asked us whether we would book the Magic the next time around instead of the Wonder. No, I love the Wonder. The Wonder is by far my favorite Magic class ship. I think some of the upgrades that they've done to the Magic just haven't been like fully developed yet in the way that they were on the Wonder. And also we've had some difficult challenges with the Magic in terms of mechanical operation when we've been on her a few times. And so prefer the Wonder. So we are fingers crossed going to book this cruise again in 2027 on the Wonder. Loved it. Just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I got to jump in and say, hands down, this was my favorite cruise. I think it even beat Norway. I mean, Norway was hard to beat. Southern Caribbean is hard to beat, but I think Alaska puts them all to shame. I mean, the beauty of, we got lucky with weather. We got lucky with the bears. Like, we got lucky with the helicopter excursion, right? So there was a lot of luck involved as well. So I have to acknowledge that, but this was so magical from start to finish. It was such an incredible cruise. And I got to say that Nathan, I asked him about where this cruise sort of ranks in all the cruises that he's been on. Now, he has not been to Norway. That one we did without him. But he said, while the Treasure is still his favorite ship, he says this cruise was his favorite cruise. And he said it was a combination of the suite. I have to say, he did mention the suite. He loved staying in the Roy Disney suite. The excursions, he loved every single one of them. He says all of them were a 10 out of 10. And then he had a great experience in Edge with the counselors, with the other kids. He just had a fabulous time. So for him, he said number 1 cruise. Definitely we want to do it again. I would be willing to do it on the Magic, on the Wonder. I'd be willing to do it on Virgin, on the Brilliant Lady. But I have to get back to Alaska. Honestly, it is the most magical place in the world. I know that we get a lot of the beauty of Alaska here, similarly here in Washington, but Alaska just tops it all.
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out, Karen saying DCL Duo Podcast Cruise 3.0 in Alaska. Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
I'm going to
it
go on
could
record.
happen.
I'm going to
It could
go on. I'm
happen.
going to go on record right now. That's what's happening.
I don't
Subject
know.
to Sam's approval, but I'm going to go on. We're definitely booking it. So if anyone wants to come join us, we will let you know when we're going to go to Alaska, and you can join us. We may try to shift the season. We're trying to debate whether or not we try to do it just the two of us while Nathan's at his sleepaway camp, or if we do a repeat kind of August visit. And I will say this too, now that we've done it with the kind of weather that we had, I am fully prepared to go back and have it be that rainy, drizzly weather.
I never took the raincoat out, by the way. We had
Oh,
Gore-Tex raincoats. We never took them out
I
of
wore
the
my Helly
closet.
Hansen. I wore my Disney Cruise on
You
Helly
did
Hansen.
wear it as, yeah.
But I'm like fully prepared to go back now because I've seen the stuff that was really, I feel like, weather dependent, and now I'm ready to kind of
Yeah.
go back and see something different. And I would love to see the scenery,
Yeah.
enmeshed in clouds and all of that sort of
Well,
stuff.
and we would do different excursions. The gold panning is a one and done. It was fun, and Nathan loved it, but that's a one and done excursion, right? Like there's some things I would repeat the helicopter with the sled dogs, no lie, but not every excursion is repeatable. I'd want to do different ones. One thing I wanted to answer, I forgot to answer the question about accessibility. While I will say none of our excursions were really accessible, but the ports were very accessible. So absolutely I don't think would be a problem, other than obviously the Glacier excursion, that boat. But all three of the actual land ports we went to, very much accessible for transferring on and off the ship, no question. And there are accessible excursions. You just have to look for them. It's just the ones that we chose were not. So I just want to put that out there because I know we had a lot of questions about accessibility in the chat.
All right. I have two final comments because one, I just want to say this cruise is active. It was very active for us. The pool deck, while it was being used on some of the days, it was chilly to be swimming. The hot tubs were getting a lot of use. And the sea days were cooler. So like this was not people were using the pool, but I would say this was not like a hop in the pool. And even on the days you're at sea, or like Glacier Day, which is really kind of a special sea day, like you're running all over the deck, you're trying to get photos, and it's cold.
Really cold. With Glacier Day, really cold out on deck.
But this is not Caribbean cruising with lots of relaxation and beach. I was tired going into work today from all of the activity that we got to do over the last week. It's one of those cruises where you get off, you come home, and you're like, okay, now I need some relaxation time. So just know that going in, this is not going to be like a Caribbean cruise. I think that can be especially hard on kids, and choose your excursions wisely. Nathan was tuckered out, many days. I could tell he was just tired. So just know that going in.
And my mom was tired. People ask, what did your mom think of the cruise? My mom absolutely loved the cruise. My mom is not a cruise person. She is not a beach person. She is not a Caribbean or Bahamas person. This was her second cruise ever. The first one was on the Fantasy with us, a 7-night Eastern Caribbean. She loved this cruise. She did a whale watching excursion and sort of trail hike thing. There was a short, not a long hike. She is not a hiker. So, but she did an excursion on Juneau Day that was different than our excursion. That was sort of a nature and science focused one, and so that's what she did. She loved that excursion, and she of course loved the railway. But I think the biggest joy for her, well, she loved seeing the scenery. I think one of the biggest joys for her was being able to spend it with our family and being able to see Nathan enjoying all of what Alaska has to offer.
Yeah. Okay. So two other things I was trying to get to. One is Alan mentioned the Northern Lights. You can see the Northern Lights on this cruise, and in fact, I'm kicking myself because we didn't think about it, and we discovered that the crew member told us the best time to see them is actually when you sail from Juneau to Ketchikan, and they were visible that night, and we didn't even think about it. She also said that the Milky Way was out one night. I mean, that's all going to be very weather dependent. If you're in heavy clouds and fog, of course, you're not going to see anything. But because of the weather we had, that stuff was visible. We just completely spaced on seeing it. So if we do this cruise again and there's a clear night, I'm going to be out there on the deck trying to catch them. We might be able to see them tonight here. Okay, well, I'm not sure I'm going to get up at 3 a.m. on a work night to go do that, but you can. And then the last thing I want to say is someone made a comment, July is so expensive. I do want to acknowledge Alaska cruising is much more expensive than just about any other Disney cruise out there. I will say we chose the cruise we did because it was the last sailing before our son went back to school, and most of the rest of the country was back in school. That knocked... For the suite we were in, it knocked close to $15,000 off the price of the room. And for other staterooms, there was a similar kind of percentage decline. So if you can get into Alaska in those shoulder seasons when school's still in session, you can save a ton of money. Now, on the front end of that, it may mean potentially worse weather than what we had, although our weather was abnormal. On the back end of that, kind of same thing. The shoulder seasons tend to be a little bit more difficult. There were plenty of kids on our cruise, though. So I don't want to say that there was like an adult cruise. It wasn't. There were plenty of kids on board. But those shoulder seasons can save you quite a bit. So I always say look at the early and the late. And, yes, right in the smack dab of the summer, it's the height of Alaska season. It will be interesting to see what Disney Cruise Line does with its pricing when it puts 2 ships up there, because we are hearing some things about like even on the Destiny Maiden concierge rooms becoming available. I think a lot of that had to do with executives probably saying we're not going to sail so you can release the room. But still, we're hearing some interesting things about concierge availability around the fleet. So putting 2 ships up in Alaska at the prices that Disney's charging for those at the height of the summer, there could be a little bit of a discount going on there. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But all right. With that, we're going to wrap it up here. Plenty more we could say, but we really just wanted to cover the room experience, support experience. I think we've done that. I think we've answered most of the questions in the chat.
Answer that other question.
Say that again.
The food was great. Somebody asked the dining on board. Food was great.
Food was great.
No trivia wins, Linda. Sorry.
We came close.
Second place.
We came close on theme song trivia, movie theme or movie song trivia. Came within 1 point.
We didn't do any brain teasers. We skipped brain teasers to give other people a chance.
Yep. All right. So with that, we are going to wrap up now. And so want to highlight, we will be back next week on our regular time, Monday night, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We will have the incomparable Ashley Norton with us to talk about her European Disney Cruise Line sailing. We did get some requests while we were gone about like, hey, can you guys talk a bit more about the dream? We have some episodes coming out, and Ashley will be on live with us to talk a bit about actually the fantasy in Europe this year. Sorry, I said the dream, the fantasy in Europe. And so be on to talk about that. But with that, we will just say thank you for everyone for hanging in for us with this extra long live episode. We appreciate you. Hope you found it helpful, and we will see you next time.
Bye from the Pacific Northwest.
Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCLDuo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCLDuo or email them at DCLDuo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to DCLDuo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLDuo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.